Hello guys, welcome to this video. So in this video we will look at the Google File Picker API inside JavaScript, how to integrate it in the browser and simply use it. So this is a very simple example. We will be using plain vanilla JavaScript and HTML5, and it will be integrating with authentication Google Auth, and we'll be integrating this File Picker API of Google. So this is actually the button right here. If you see, I'm running this on localhost in the browser. We have the authorize button. So first of all, we need to click this button. So as you click the button, you will see this series of accounts from which you can select your Google account. So once you select the Google account, you need to grant permission to actually integrate this Google File Picker API. So you need to click on continue. So once you click continue, you need to verify, click on continue, and then you need to grant the access. And after you grant the access, you will see the Google File Picker, and it will basically fetch all your photographs which are stored from your Google Drive or Google Photos. So you can select any files right here, multiple files. So once you select, we have the select button as well. You will see this JSON response returning to you, and it will actually hold all the files that you selected from the Google File Picker. So this may be very much helpful in those situations when you want to fetch your photographs from Google Drive using this file picker. It's a very handy file picker. You will see if you click it, a modal window will open and all the pictures which are stored in Google Drive will fetch automatically. And here you can select any multiple by pressing the shift button. You can select multiple. So once you select all the pictures you selected, which will be there in this JSON. So there is also this sign out button which is also showing because you are currently logged in. So if you click sign out, you will be logged out. So again, if you click authorize, once again you need to grant access. So we will be integrating this inside this video. I will show you step by step how to integrate this Google File Picker API, to how to show this modal window to select, to allow the users to select their pictures. This can be any files, it can be pictures, videos. So once you select this, you will get this JSON response. So if you go to the documentation, you will find this Google Picker API. It is commonly known as, it's a JavaScript API that can be used in web apps to let users select or upload Google Drive files. So we will be looking at a complete example. All the source code will be given in the description of this video. So I will be seeing you in the next section. So now to get started, we just need to create a simple index.html file. So just call this anything. I'm just calling it picker.html. So as I already told you, it works in the browser. So it will be built using HTML and JavaScript. So no third-party library I'm using. So first of all, just make a very simple HTML template, and we will simply say Google Picker API example. So the very first thing we need to do, we need to include the actual API. So we need to include two script tags which will be responsible. So just after the body, you can include these script tags. So https apis.google.com/js api.js. So this is a standard way of including any Google API that you want to use. In this case, we are using Google Picker API. So we need to include this script tag. So it's just loading the SDK of Google, and just we need to add async here. We'll be loading it asynchronously and defer. The next script tag you need to add will be, again we'll be loading a script, accounts.google.com gsi slash client. So this is actually the URL. So again we need to add async and defer. So this async defer simply means that we are loading it when the page is loaded, then we are loading these two scripts. So this is, we are loading it asynchronously. And there is also an attribute that you can attach to it. So when the script is loaded, the script is loaded successfully, there is this attribute on load. We will need to execute a function after the script is loaded on the web page. So we can here write a very custom function. So I will define this function Google API loaded. And similarly to this script tag as well, we can just give it a on load attribute. So when this script is loaded, we will say, so both these functions will execute whenever these scripts are successfully loaded on the web page. And after you do this, now in the custom script, I will write custom JavaScript code. So I will just define the file in the same. So this will be the custom JavaScript code. So here inside this, we need to define some variables. First of all, we need to define a scopes variable. Scopes is nothing but what information that you are accessing from the API. So we need to explicitly write the scope right here. So we need to read the files from the Google Drive using the file picker. So this is actually the appropriate scope for that. http googleapis.com/auth/drive.metadata read only. So this means that we are reading the files from Google Drive using that file picker. And then we need to define two variables which will be coming from Google Cloud Console. So first will be client ID and the second will be the API key. So to call any API or any API of Google, you need these two information. So just create a Google Cloud Console account. I have already created one. So first of all, we need to enable this API by going to this section, enable APIs and services. And here you just need to search for this API, which is Google Picker API. So just search for it here in the search bar, Google Picker API. The very first result which comes right here, you just need to enable it. And then you need to create the credentials by going to this section. And then click your OAuth client ID. And here is, you need to select here web application. So in the authorized JavaScript origins, you need to provide the home page of the URL. So if you open this, in my case, whatever is your URL of the, so mine, in my case, it is running on port number 5501. So you just need to copy the same address and simply paste it. So in the authorized JavaScript origins, you only need to write until the port number. So whatever is your main website name. So in the authorized redirect URI, you need to paste the full URL like this. And here also, we need to also write HTTP localhost because we are building our application on localhost. So that's why also add this also, both these versions. And then click on create, and this will give you your client ID that we need. So simply copy this client ID and paste it right here. And for the API key, you will see this section. So just copy to clipboard. So this is the API key. So both the things we got, client ID, API key. Now we just need to write those functions that we defined, which is these two functions. So here we will execute this Google API gapi.load. So this is a standard way by which you can load the Google SDK. And here you need to specify client underscore picker, and then it takes a callback function, and we can initialize this custom function, which is initialize picker. So we can just write a console log statement. So we just need to define this function initialize picker. So thus this again will be a async function. So here we just need to again type GAPI, which stands for Google API, client.load, and we will be loading this URL, which is http googleapis.com /discovery/version1. So here we are writing the full address of which API that we need to load. API/drive/version3/rest. This is a complete URL, and then we just need to initialize some variables as well at the very top. So these variables will be responsible for, first of all, the token client. The second variable will be the access token that we will get after we done with the authentication. So for now, this variable will be null. And then two Boolean parameters, which will be picker initiated. This will be false for now. And the second Boolean variable is Google API loaded or not. This will also be false. So right here, after we load this URL, we can simply change the Boolean parameter picker initiated to true. And now we need to enable the buttons. We will write this function which will enable and show the buttons to us. So we just need to define this function, which is enable buttons. We are enabling buttons because when we load the application, we will hide the buttons. If you just refresh the, we have no buttons out there, but we do need two buttons in the HTML. So right, we haven't written the HTML, so just inside the body we will have this HTML, which will contains two buttons. So these buttons will be first button for authorizing and then the sign out button. So we will basically binding these functions handle auth click and handle sign out click. So and then there is a pre-tag which will where we will be showing the JSON response when we select images. This is the actual HTML. So when we load the page, you can see these two buttons appearing, but we need to hide these buttons because we only want to show it whenever the API is loaded. So what I will do is that I will hide these buttons by just writing simple line of code which will change the visibility property to hidden. So now if you load this, the buttons are not showing. We only want to show buttons when the API is loaded. So if you see, it is saying that this function is not defined. So we do need to define this function as well. We are defining this function, which is this one, G is loaded. Let me define it. So this function, which will be, we need to initialize the token client variable that we declare inside this. The step-by-step process is there. You can just see we need to systematically load the APIs. So OAuth2 dot initiate token client. So these are all STK methods. This is here we need to pass the client ID that we have. We define client ID in the client ID variable, then the scope variable. So we have defined this function variable as well, and then the callback, which we will define later on. After this, we can change this Boolean parameter, which is Google API loaded, to true, and then again we will call the same function which will enable the buttons. So in both these functions, if you see at the last, we are calling this function. So from here, initialize picker, we are loading the same function at both these locations. So if you just console log, you will see this console log message printed out that Google API loaded. Now we need to show the buttons. So for showing the buttons, what we will do, we will have a if condition that if the picker initiated and the Google, if both these variables are true, in that case we need to show the buttons. So we will only be showing the authorized button because you will see we are changing the visibility property from hidden to visible. So now the authorized button will be available to you. And as you load, after the Google API is loaded, now we see this authorize button. So once you click this button, nothing happens. We need to define that function which we define to the button, which is handle auth click. So inside this function, handle auth click. So inside this function, we need to show the actual account screen where the user can do the authentication. So inside the token client variable, we have the callback function which we need to define async response. And then from this window, we can get the access token very easily by using response.access token. There is a property. If I just console log the response just to see if it is working or not, let me console log it. So if you try to execute your application in the browser, just click the authorize button. So the window is not showing here because we do first of all need to get the access token. We need to request it. So here we will actually have a condition that if the access token is null, in that case we have a condition right here which will be if the access token is not present, is null, in that case we need to request the access token. So there is a function in this SDK which we can call request access token. So here it actually takes a property in this object which is prompt, and here you need to provide consent. This is the value of this property. And there will also be a else condition. If the access token is already present, in that case we also need to request access token, but here the prompt will be nothing. So if you just write this line and again click the button, you will see this sign in screen will show to you, and here you can select your Google account. So once you select the Google account, grant the permission, click on continue. So you need to grant the permission to use the API. So once you do this process, you will see the response coming, which we have this object and we get this access token that we want. So we have this access token available to us. All this profile information is also there. We only need the access tokens, and after we get this access token, we can call the API. So after storing this access token, we can simply show the sign out button. So what we can do, so we are actually doing two things at this moment of time. We are showing the sign out button from hidden to visible, and then we are changing the text of the authorize button from authorize to refresh. So if you just refresh your, again do this process, click on that. So select the account. So now you can see the sign out button is showing and it has changed from authorize to refresh. So Now to actually show this picker dialog, after we get this access token right here, we just need to define another function which will be responsible for showing the picker dialog. So just after you do this two things, we show the buttons, you will define another function, custom function. You'll say await. I will call this as create picker. So this function will be responsible for showing the Google Picker dialog box. So I will define this function right here. So function and create picker. So inside this, we can actually create the picker dialog by invoking new google.picker.view, and here you can pass google.picker.view id. So you just need to write the same thing that I'm doing right here. Check the spelling here. Dot docs. And here you need to set some properties about the picker dialog, which is the mem type. So this means that which images, which file types that you want. So we need to have images. So we will write image.png, image./jpeg, and image/jpg. If you also want to display videos, you just need to define the extension. So mp4, mkv, mov. So I'm just providing images, so that's why I'm providing png, jpg. So only the images will show from the Google Drive, and then we can initialize the picker dialog by using defining the picker variable, and we can simply initiate new google.picker.picker builder. There is a function which will build the picker window, and then we have a series of functions that we can define to actually enable features on this picker dialog. So we have various functions that we can define. So what I can do, I can simply paste it. So you can chain all these methods together. So like this. So we have using the enable feature function. So navigation will be hidden, multi-select enabled, so that you can select multiple files. Here you are providing your API key, app ID, access token, view, and docs upload view. And this is the actual callback function which this Google Picker allows you. So when you select files, this function will get executed, holding the files that you selected. And lastly, we are building it by using the build function. As you can see, we are declaring a app ID variable. So we do need to provide app ID as well. So we just need to define this variable app ID. App ID is nothing but your Google Cloud's console project ID. So you can just find this if you go to Google Cloud Console. So whatever is your project, so mine is this. So this is your project ID that you see. So I can simply copy this and paste it. So after you do this, click on this. Hopefully this the picker dialog will show. Okay, it is saying picker callback is not defined. So we just need to define that function as well, which we define, which is picker callback. So this will be a async function. I think inside picker callback we do need to define. Okay, the problem is we haven't called this. You can just see the picker variable that we declared, we haven't called this. So we just need to declare a property right here. So this variable picker, we need to set the set visible function is there. We need to set it to true so that the window will show. That's why the window was not showing. So once again, you repeat the process. So now the Google Drive file picker window will show and it will fetch all the photographs which are stored in my Google Drive. And here you can select multiple files by holding shift, you can see. So once you select all this, that callback function will, so there inside this callback function, we will get the data here as an passed as an argument. So here we can console log the data just to cross check once we select. So you can see three files is selected and action is picked, and we are getting all these pictures selected, the ID of the picture, all this information, extension, the name of the file. So we can display this or we can use this inside whatever application that you are building. So inside this we can show it as a JSON response. So we are fetching this information. If you see the file ID, the fields, so just converting it to JSON, that's not important. Important thing is that you understand how we integrated this Google File Picker API for fetching the files from Google Drive. So you'll see all the, you're showing the JSON response coming. So in this way, guys, you can use this Google Picker API to fetch files from your Google Drive automatically in the Picker window. Thank you very much for watching this video, and do check out my website as well, freemediatools.com, which contains thousands of free tools regarding audio, video and image. And I will be seeing you in the next video.